Hey, hello. Yet another Ask Us Anything session. We haven't prepared anything. We are here just to answer your questions. That's all we do. So, Scott, everybody knows Scott so far. Me, Victor. Let's go through your questions. Actually, first from Attar, super sticker. Thank you, Attar. This is really, really appreciated. Thanks so much, man. And the question from Attar. Anthropic recently announced sliding from MCP and tool calls to skills, yet no alternative to MCP is presented. Skills look very amorphic right now. So I was not aware of that, those news. I read them just now while the intro was playing, and I think it's ridiculous. Honestly, that's my first thought. Because they're very different things, right? That would be like saying, hey, we are switching from web servers for something to something running locally, which is very different thing, right? Skills are a directory on my machine, in my project where I work. They're basically glorified prompts that can teach AI when to use them in a similar way as MCP tools are basically providing information to AI. Hey, this is what I do. You can use me if you need me, right? Now, let's say that I'm a third party. I want to develop something that you will be able to use. Let's say, Scott, I'm going to develop something that will be helpful for you, right? Whatever that something is. How do I give it to you? As a directory, as a zip file that you unpack into a directory of your project and you use it? I think not. Right. So, and this is Scott as a person. Now imagine Scott as a company that wants to put certain guardrails around that something, authentication, this or that. It needs to be something that can run in different ways, right? And here's the critical difference, right? You cannot compare skills to MCP because you can compare skills to MCP protocol, maybe, who knows? I'm gracious right now. But MCP is a protocol. Now, what is behind it? It's the same like HTTP, right? What's behind it? That's HTTP in a different case is whatever you want. There could be code that processes this and that. It could be something that talks to a different LLM. It could be anything you want. It's a web server, essentially, MCP, that happens to talk to you through a different protocol, right?
So I think there's also a bit of there's a huge difference between MCP and skills. And the article from Anthropic, which is based off of also they obviously released it after Cloudflare released their thing, because it was a few weeks after and Cloudflare released this idea of, code first. I think that it's not the idea. I don't believe that Anthropic are saying in the article that skills are going to replace MCP. They aren't. And they actually clearly state that they aren't a few times. Really what they're saying is a true issue that exists in MCP, which is the fact that what we want to get to is where MCP exposes TypeScript APIs, let's say we define that it's TypeScript APIs, say that it's whatever it is, and that what the LLM should be doing is have those different APIs exposed to it, and then instead of calling one tool at a time, getting that output back to it, and then calling again and just bloating my context every single time it goes through a process, it should be writing code that executes those MCP tools. Now, that does not negate the fact that maybe that MCP tool is still running on an HTTP server. Maybe it's running locally. We need to fix what that protocol is going to be, MCP 2.0, where what it exposes is a TypeScript API or whatever it is that can be called, that it writes code for you of what it wants to do and returns that back to me, right?
Correct.
That is what is needed, meaning I am 100% pro the general idea of what Anthropic are talking about here, which is that single sequential tool calls being called by the agent, instructed by the LLM, and going through that loop every time is completely inefficient, is horrifying, and should never have been the way that we go.
Correct.
Should MCPs still be packaged up and run remotely or run locally? The way that I do this in the end is that agents are what are in charge of where things run, and it shouldn't be the MCP. The MCP can be local, can be remote, whatever. It's just exposing APIs. And in the end, when my LLM tells my agent, hey, here's the code to run, that is the job of the agent, be that Claude Code, be that Cursor with Cursor Cloud running in a isolated sandbox, my MCP snippets of code in that large script that's being built. Whatever that is, that's the way to do it. But that's going to be a major change.
Yes.
That needs to happen.
See, in other words, I feel that you're going in the same direction. There is a big difference between talks about what should be the protocol, how agents talk to something, whatever that something is, let's call it a binary, and skills, which is not necessarily that much of a protocol. It's very anthropic thingy that... Huh? Exactly.
It's not a protocol. It's the same thing as / commands, right?
Exactly.
In the end, the idea is that MCP needs to be extended in the way that LLMs do tool calling, needs to be extended to actually have it just write code that executes those tools and does the logic around them. What that requires is MCP tools to actually, though, give in their tool description what the output format is so that they would be able to understand input-output schemas using something like a Zod schema or whatever that ends up being. That's all we need.
So in other words, I will be very disappointed if Anthropic is sliding from MCP to a different protocol, kind of thumbs up. Call it MCP2, call it something else, I don't care. But not to skills. I will be very disappointed.
I agree. I will say, though, that one of the major things is that Anthropic are while they are the ones that created MCP, and kudos to them for creating it, I absolutely despise the fact that they just don't care about the protocol, in the sense that Claude Code, Claude Desktop still do not support MCP elicitation, still do not support the newer features that have come out in the spec months ago. I give huge kudos to GitHub Copilot. Microsoft was the first company to adopt any new feature in the MCP specification. Cursor take 2 months longer than them, but at least they get it in. And Anthropic just couldn't care less, it seems.
So here's a disappointing thing is that at the beginning, Anthropic created something, MCP, with the idea for it to become some sort of standard that different clients, agents can use. And they succeeded in that. They created a standard. Ignore now how good or bad it is. And what did they do after they created a standard that almost everybody else adopted? All the future development went back to how can we make something that works essentially only in Claude Code, among other skills, because I don't see anybody else adopting skills. That's the point, right? Kind of that's so tied in a way to Claude Code. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't see it happening, and they know it. Anyways, quick. I just got alarm. I set it up because I forget, Scott, all the time. Where is it? There we go. My screen. Hey, we have a sponsor almost every week when I don't forget to mention them. Octopus gives you basically everything you need if you need to run Argo, right? They have a solution on top of Argo. This is not what they're sponsoring in this video. What they're sponsoring is that you get support. You get people who know what they're doing to help you with whatever you're doing, right? Argo CD for most people, Argo events, Argo workflows, Argo whatever is the fourth one. I forgot already. Anyways, if you're using any of the Argo products and you're a company and you want to pay money to people to help you out with that, then check it out. Enterprise support for Argo from Argo maintainers by Octopus. Go and check them out. I have somewhere. I will find. I promise I will find. I have even the link somewhere, and I will find it. I promise I will. Virtual coffee, no dot questions, AMA. There we go. Octopus.com/support. Go there, check them out. Thank you, Octopus, for sponsoring. Now let's go. Let's remove this and go to. I will give a 30 seconds answer and then you will have half an hour if you want, because I know you do, right? Is Backstage worth it? Yes. But not if you think that it will fix all the mess you have that you now consider being your platform. It's a portal to your platform. It will expose and help users use your platform, right? If the platform is horrible, if what you have below it is horrible, it will not help much.
So,
that's my take.
Yeah. So what I would say is the following. Backstage is worth it if you are willing to invest in it and treat it like a product. Meaning, again, Backstage is easy to get started, easy to stop maintaining, and mess yourself up. Meaning you need to have actual engineers that are dedicated to maintaining it, that know what they're doing, that can build the plugins. If you are willing to invest the 1, 2, 3 people to work on this, depending on the size of your company and how many plugins you need, right? If it's 1 full-time engineer, 2, 3, 20, right? Like if you're a huge Spotify, you have many, many engineers working on it. If you're a smaller company, it's 1 person, right? But you need to have the team that is going to maintain this, that is going to develop the plugins. You need to have a product management outlook on it, meaning that you're going and talking to your customers about what they want, what would help them. You have to think about this. You have to get customer feedback, right? This because while it is true that this is not your platform, right? And I spoke at Backstage Con, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at KubeCon, and I came up there and one of the first lines that I said is Backstage is not a platform. It is a portal, right? And even beyond that, it's a framework for building portals. But the key here is no matter what, and I remember this when I started in VRA, vRealize Automation from VMware, right? Which is like the private cloud UI thing from VMware. Anytime that we would do that and we would install this by a customer and everything was great, and we would set it up and you would create all the offerings and no matter what, it was an issue in the network. Because the end user uses that as their interface to your platform, you're at fault. Because Jenkins breaks in the back end and the Jenkins plugin doesn't show something in the UI in Backstage, you're at fault. Because there's an issue in the GitHub API that you reach rate limits and they're looking at it through Backstage, you're at fault. No matter what, when you are the interface to the platform, even though you are not the platform, from the user's perspective, you are the platform. Now, we know as platform engineers that it's not the platform and it's just the interface. But from the end user perspective, Backstage is the platform. And you have to understand that, and therefore you have to give it the right attention that it deserves. Because from your user's perspective, it is the platform, even though it 100% is not.
Yeah. And one note I will add. At the beginning, you said kind of like you need to be dedicated to it, right? I would say that's not Backstage. That's anything that you treat as a product. And this is a product, just that your customers are people in your company, not necessarily outsiders, is dedication. Right. Whatever you think that you're going to drop and just kind of forget about it and you will have users,
right.
will not work.
It's not like Argo CD or Flux, which, okay, you install, it's a service that you provide, and okay, so you have to Helm upgrade every once in a while.
More.
That's it. I mean, because you're not writing things, you're not doing custom code, you're not this. Backstage is a framework, so it really has to be a full product.
Yeah, right? That's true. So from Edener, skill started in A2A. I did not know that. Now I do.
I still only see it in Anthropic.
As well. I mean, for all I know, maybe it's called differently. I don't know. But what makes next from Eric? What makes MCP UI or UI for agentic AI different? I don't know. I mean, in my head, UI is an interface that talks through some protocol to something elsewhere, right? And from that perspective, it's the same. Now, it's not the RPC and it's not HTTP, but it's a different protocol. It still feels the same to me.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that there are some AI-related capabilities makes it different, of course, but not because it's MCP. Kind of, hey, maybe we will have text box instead of forms.
Yeah. Listen, so I don't know what UI for agentic AI is, if that's just a general term, or MCP UI is an actual project. Okay, MCP UI is an actual project and an attempted protocol, which makes a lot of sense, actually. And the idea is that currently today, MCPs are only returning JSON blobs, basically, right, as their responses, JSON RPC responses. And the nice thing with MCP UI is that it's basically a way of how the MCP tool can return and provide better user experiences and actually like generate kind of like UI elements on the fly that get returned to the user. So, you know, return pictures and return kind of like handcrafted HTML that was done in the back end, right? And all these interesting elements. MCP UI makes sense to me. My issue with MCP UI, again, is how many tools actually support MCP UI. Right? So the issue is that MCP UI should be a part of the MCP protocol and not something separate. And there should be a way that these things are done. Now, I understand it has to be developed outside, gain the traction, then be brought in. But I think the goal of MCP UI has to be to become part of the MCP specification. I think that is one of the lacking areas of the MCP spec, is this whole element of, you know, output types and doing that actually right, because it's very lacking right now in the MCP specification.
This is amazing session. This is the second thing I learned today. So when you say MCP UI, you're talking about a specific project, not kind of UIs for MCPs.
MCPUI.dev. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know. Everything I said is bollocks. Okay. I was not aware of it. Now I need to check it up.
It's very cool, actually, what they do. They do some very cool things.
Oh, very cool. I mean, very cool. Now I don't have weekend again.
Yeah, but it's actually very cool, right? Creating interactive UI components over MCP. It's very cool.
Very cool. Oh, okay. That's my homework now. What's next? Jason Pauly. Hey, Jason. It's been 3 weeks since we see each other. VSM, Microsoft is massively behind MCP spec, not Anthropic. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who is driving it now. I know Anthropic kind of started it all. Is it Microsoft? Okay, well done, Microsoft.
Yeah. There's community. The main company, I would say, is now Microsoft. It's actually, I really hate what Anthropic did here, and it's part of, in general, I believe that Anthropic have built the best models for coding, and I believe that they are one of the worst companies that I've seen in this area. They throw things out there. They try to build specifications to say we're cool, and then they throw it out. They are the most non-transparent company that I've seen of any of the different AI companies as well.
That's true.
What they did with MCP is reminds me of some other projects that I don't even want to mention in the CNCF space that have come out there. That, you know, oh, we donated it to CNCF. Now we're not going to do anything.
No, but I agree completely with everything you said, but I can forgive them because still what they produce is ahead of anybody else. Kind of.
Oh, as I said, their models are amazing. And I give them all the respect in the world for that.
So, Eric, what does V before your usernames mean? I have no idea what that is.
Oh, for me, it's V Rabbi is my thing because I started my career with VRA.
Ah, that V.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So
in my
VRA,
case, then it's V Farsik, Victor Farsik. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that became a muscle memory, but that's probably how I feel that I might have forgotten it. In early days, kind of like usernames were always first letter of the name, last name, or something like that. Early days.
Yeah.
From Hans Human, AI agents are making mistakes even when given a good prompt. How can I make sure they work without errors and do exactly what they ask? So let's say that, so first of all, the better, good prompt, that's relative. I haven't seen your prompts. I don't know whether they're good or no. What I do know is that AI works, the more precise you are, the AI works better. But works in a similar way as a human. So let's say that I give Scott right now instructions to do something. There is no guarantees that he will do it without errors and do exactly what I ask him to do. Now, I can lower the chances of that by giving him more detailed instructions and hope that actually Scott will read them, which he probably won't. But hope dies last. So there is no guarantee. That's what makes LLMs. They are unpredictable. They are non-deterministic. From that perspective, similar to us. There is no guarantee. You can just lower the chances that it will do it wrong, and also increase the possibilities that it can correct itself, right? Like, one of the amazing things that agentic AI gave us is that AI can request execution of tools to validate its work. I'm not saying it works always great, right? But it can write code. So before, I'm talking about like a year and a half ago, you would write code by going to ChatGPT in browser, ask it to do something, it writes code and says, I'm done. With agentic, it can do that, but then it can compile and see whether it compiles, right? It can run tests to see whether it passes. That's no guarantee that it will not mess it up. It's just that the goal is how to lower the possibility. We will never be able to, because even the instructions you're giving it are also fallible, right? There is no guarantee that the instructions you gave are complete, correct, and what you want. At least in my case, I know that I change my mind all the time. I start working on a feature, and then 1 hour later, oh my God, no, what did I do? Right?
Exactly. I think that the key is also give it smaller tasks. Don't give it big tasks because it gets lost in big tasks, right? AI is, again, any of these BS models that say, oh, we have 2 million token contexts, whatever, anything over 100 to 150, and they go berserk and they start doing the stupidest things in the world. So, like, even if it has 2 million, don't use 2 million. Like, that's number one, right? It's a question of how good they deal with context size and not how big their official support for context size is. That's something very important. I think that in the end, what you were saying, Victor, is critical, right? Anything that can be done deterministically as part of your thing should be a tool in an MCP or another type of
script
that the agent is calling, and having the LLM just go and manipulate those things. I think one of the best things that I have seen, actually, and I hate the IDE, but what's the IDE from AWS that they released?
Kiro.
Yeah, Kiro. Right? So I don't like it. I think that it generates markdown files that, I wouldn't wish on the worst of my enemies how long they are. However, what I will say, the one thing that I really love they have there is hooks, where you can say, after the agent does something, run this. Because one of the things that agents, sometimes you tell it, hey, run the compilation and tests after, and it doesn't. And the nice thing with hooks is that I can say, hey, after the agent finishes its stuff, run this thing, do this thing, right? So the fact that we can kind of orchestrate saying, hey, agent, do this, and then I have a deterministic mechanism that says, great, once that finished, do this task, that I think is awesome, right? I love having hooks. I wish that was something that others implemented because they're really cool.
One thing I will add, because you mentioned, I'm training myself. So I'm intentionally not using 1 million token context in Anthropic. I use Anthropic model, Sonnet. Actually, DAO Opus, but that's a separate discussion.
No,
I'm intentionally...
to Opus 4.5? Really?
Oh, it's amazing. We can have a long discussion. It's so bloody amazing.
After
changed.
for 1 week you were on Gemini 3?
I was on Gemini 3. Gemini 3 is not, it's good, but it's not a generational leap. I expected it to be kind of, we took our time and this is so much better. Opus, we can have a discussion whether it's slightly better or worse than Sonnet 4.5. Opus kills it. It's so bloody amazing. But where I was going is that I'm training myself. I'm intentionally sticking with 200K context because if I reach that limit, I know that the way I'm organizing my work is wrong. Kind of like, that's the what you mentioned, those small tasks, kind of, you need to organize it in a way in a digestible pieces and record what you did at the end. So I start, let's say that I have a feature with 20 tasks. That there will be 20 different sessions in my case, right? Ideally.
Exactly. Do not stay. I see some people in like Copilot or Cursor with the same chat the entire day, like on the side. That is horrifying because it keeps compressing the context. It keeps losing context instead of save things out, read it in, start again. And it's
exactly. Okay, from Shamil, Victor, I saw KCL revive development, just FYI. If this is, I saw the comment earlier when we were discussing other thing and I was multitasking and checking. There was no release for months. I saw some commits happening. If this is true, and I'm cautious to say it's true, if this is true, this will make my day. I will be...
They have, it's not at full, from what I understood, it's not at the full capacity of what it was before, but they are putting attention back onto it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure that the KCL needs kind of like an army of maintainers. I just need...
I don't think it does.
One person.
It needs one or two people that are, working on it with high attention. Not even full attention, just high attention.
Okay, from Shamil, have you had a chance to look at Concourse CI? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I haven't. Scott, do you know?
I have, and out of respect for some of the people that created it, I will not share my opinions, which are not very good. I do not like Concourse at any level whatsoever.
So, here's the thing. And I'm not now speaking about Concourse, but about of workflows, what we commonly call CI or whatever it is. Until somebody comes up with a new idea how we should do that, and somebody eventually will. I don't have patience anymore to try new tools that will do the same. Kind of like GitHub Actions if you can. Kind of like find me slightly better. I'm not.
If you can't use a hosted solution, what do you use?
In my case, it would be my old company and current sponsor, Kotreš.
Okay, you would use what's called Argo Workflows.
No, they have their own CI, something.
Really?
It's their own workflows. It could be Argo as well. So, rule number 2, if you can use GitHub Actions and you're in GitHub, or GitLab CI also, fine, it's good, it's fine. To me, it's kind of, they're all the same. That's the point I'm trying to make. And if it's all the same, whatever is the most convenient. And I'm not switching until somebody comes up. Huh?
As long as it's not Jenkins. Anything that uses YAML as the definition of your pipeline is
Sorry,
fine.
Scott, I said most convenient. Okay? Jenkins is the least convenient one. Maybe after TeamCity. Or what's the JetBrains thingy?
No, not
JetBrains.
TeamCity is JetBrains. Yeah.
Yeah. So all those that came, so let's say, use Jenkins if your alternative are tools that were created within 5 years after Jenkins. They're all clones of Jenkins and bad. Use something modern if you can. But it does not matter that much because they're all same. They're all execute those tasks sequentially or in parallel. No, I'm stupefied how nobody came up with a new idea in that area.
People tried, and what were those people that moved things into doing it as code? Who are those doofuses?
The ex-Docker, the Dagger?
Yeah, that thing. Yeah.
But no, let's say for a second.
But
No,
run that
but
within your CI. Run that within GitHub if you want it.
But even if, let's say that it makes sense, and I don't think it does, but let's say for the sake of argument it makes sense. It's still not a replacement for your CI. You still need to run it in GitHub Actions or Jenkins.
Correct. Yeah, it replaces all of the steps you're doing in it. But it's just right.
It's basically so. In other words, Dagger is a replacement for shell scripts that you should be using in your CI instead of writing stuff directly there. Whether it makes sense, that's separate discussion. Okay, so Eric, I think this is referring to you, Scott, that you mentioned some CNCF projects. Do you remember what you were talking about?
Yeah, about CNCF projects that were created by a vendor and then completely abandoned, such as Score.
Oh, what a vendor. I feel that there will be more. I feel that many of the vendors behind CNCF projects are going under. And there will be a public outcry. Similar, I think it will be similar situation like Nginx. Actually, there is a big difference. There was no commercial entity on top of Nginx. That was a problem. And I believe in open source that has a commercial entity on top so that somebody's paid to work on it. That's the first problem. Second is that those that do have commercial entities on top are going under. That's my theory. We'll see whether I'm right. And if that happens, there will be public outcry, similar to Nginx, where people are yelling kind of like without churning in. Kind of, hey, you mentioned before earlier, Scott. Oh, now people are volunteering to be to contribute to Nginx. Kind of like, what took you so long, man?
Right. Now, I will say, on the other hand, right, Ingress Nginx was one thing, but let's look at the other example that happened very recently, which was External Secrets Operator. External Secrets Operator went into maintenance mode, right? Temporary maintenance mode because there weren't enough maintainers, all of this, What ended up happening, though, the outcry came out, and they now have a lot of maintainers and they're back to releasing. Meaning that I think for certain projects, now it's very interesting because like I was hearing numbers Ingress Nginx is used in over 70% of Kubernetes clusters today.
Yes.
Like from the statistics that we have, which is crazy.
Okay, but here's a question for you for Nginx. How many of those are clusters supported by vendors?
I believe a large percent, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, really?
Not that Ingress Nginx is. But here's like the perfect example. In AWS, you can go with Ingress ALB, right? Yada, yada, yada thingy. You could also go with Ingress Nginx. If I go with Ingress Nginx, I pay for one load balancer externally. If I go with the ALB Ingress controller, pay for an Ingress for every Ingress. Because you're creating an application load balancer for each one. Which one am I going to go to when I'm a cost-conscious company? Right? So in AWS, for example, you have a lot of people using Ingress Nginx. Actually, go and look in Azure. They had a managed add-on of Ingress Nginx, right? So, like, it does exist in a lot of those places.
That's different, kind of like, let's say EKS, right? Yes, you have a bunch of clusters, but what is the one that AWS is pushing for? Their own.
No, I completely agree, right? But how many vendors are pushing ESO? Azure and AWS are pushing Secret Store CSI.
That's also true. I give you that one.
And Google aren't pushing anything, right? But what we saw, and the real difference here is that as painful as it's going to be, Ingress has an alternative. External Secrets Operator doesn't. That is the clear reasoning here. External Secrets Operator does not have a replacement, and therefore the community got behind it. Ingress Nginx does not.
I'm still skeptical that when you say community, I would guess, and I might be easily wrong, that actually people in some companies with companies' approval to spend time on it are actually tuning in.
Yes, but what I mean by that is it's not the AWS, Microsoft, Google's VMware's, right?
Yes.
It's the and I don't know which companies it is. Like I haven't looked into it that deeply, but it's the company that's using ESO and have 100 clusters and this is crazy working. Give me time to work on it. whatever, not the companies behind Kubernetes, not the big five, right? Let's say.
Okay, so Alexander, how would you start with designing an agent MCP solution to aid our developers with knowledge of internal standards, RAG solution, or any other idea? So, independently of the previous discussion, first, I think that MCP is the way to go today, right? Because it's supported everywhere. It works it has its faults. It's not perfect. We might switch to something else. It's just a protocol.
We can change it until we get a better one. It's the standard right now until we get a better one.
Yeah. And here's the thing. When we get the better one, you will not have to rewrite everything because most of the work is not on the API level, is on what it does, right?
Yeah.
And now, if the goal is kind of to aid developers with knowledge of internal standards, that would be some kind of RAG solution. Yeah, that would be probably that you're indexing all your knowledge into some vector database so that it can be found easily. Just to be clear, you don't put whole documents in vector database. You just extract the meaning, the point of a document, put some keywords in a database with a reference so that you can find it, right? You go to a vector database to find something and then go find the actual document and present it to users, if that's the goal, right? That's RAG, yes.
I think that it's RAG, plus the other thing is that you should have shared prompts in your MCP that are basically that help with loading certain context in and things like that. You can do shared prompts. You can do RAG. There are multiple ways of doing it. I think RAG is definitely an element of it. I think that building an MCP with shared prompts is also a key element of this.
Yeah, but if you focus specifically of knowledge of internal standards, as long as that MCP tool has some description, couple of sentences, don't go crazy, don't make mistakes we were discussing earlier, so that when you say something like find information about something, LM knows to call that MCP and MCP returns the document and you're good, if that's the goal.
Exactly. Right now, the question is really, is this for them to aid developers with knowledge, or is this to aid the IDE agent when it is coding at the instruction of the developer to follow? Those are all different things. And for that, there's cursor rules. There are copilot rules, all of those things that's what you should be implementing in the repos if you are talking about actually making the AI agent follow the rules, right? So those are two different use cases. I just wanted to make sure that we
might want to consider thinking about splitting it into processes and knowledge, or for lack of a better word. Process would be, hey, when we're finished with development, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of like we do those 5 steps. That's a perfect example of a prompt. Kind of like, hey, execute this, do this, check code reviews, blah, 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 blah. That's a process.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Dimitris Hub, Kubernetes is going to be invisible in cloud in the following years because there is a shift to manage container services like Azure Container Apps. I don't think so. No.
Nope. Absolutely not. It's Kubernetes is becoming way more than a container orchestrator. And if Kubernetes was a container orchestrator, then Azure Container Apps may have been a solution. Again, Azure Container Apps, in my mind, is the least bad of any of those PaaS-like solutions on the clouds, because in the end, it runs in Kubernetes. And it actually uses like KID, and it uses Dapper, and it uses like Kubernetes tooling under the hood. And then it's Google Cloud. What's their thingy that's Knative based, but not Knative? Google Cloud Run. And then it's, about anything else that exists on planet Earth. And then way under that is like ECS. But I think that Kubernetes will become invisible to the end users because we will be building abstractions above it like crossplane, things like that, exposing it through MCP, exposing it through Backstage, exposing it through different portals, things like that. So the low-level constructs of Kubernetes will be invisible, let's say, but Azure Container Apps is not the approach that things are going down. Things are going down the approach of building internal developer platforms because containers are too limiting. What we need today are higher level abstractions rather than Azure Container Apps that are just making the low level abstractions easier.
And it's there. I think that we have for decades that dilemma, and dilemma is a vendor like Microsoft, like Azure, right? They can give you very opinionated, simple solution that's container apps, or they can give you means how to have easier time building your own solution, right? And for if container apps work for you, or Vercel, let's go even crazy. Let's say Vercel, right? If that works for you, please don't go directly to Kubernetes. Please don't.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Right.
Any of those simple solutions, opinionated, if they work for you, they're the best option. As long as they do exactly what you want them to do, what you need them to do. The moment that's not true, you need to start tweaking it because companies cannot make, if Microsoft would extend container apps to serve everybody's needs, then it would be Kubernetes. Exactly.
Which is exactly what happened with ECS. ECS started adding sidecars, started adding this, and it just became a monstrosity just like Kubernetes. What I listen, it's what was Kelsey's line that he used to always say is that I'm convinced that everyone wants a PaaS experience. The only thing is it has to be built by them.
Exactly.
Right? Everyone wants that Heroku up CF push experience. They just want full control over what CF push or Heroku up does.
Now,
right?
To be fair, what you can do, you most likely cannot use it for existing things because they were not designed for that. Now, you can say, when I can, I will design, I'm starting a new company today, and I will do it in a way that works in Azure Container Apps. Power to you. And that might stop being true in the future when you realize that you need more complex stuff. But go for it. From Jason, only have AI write things you can validate, like small scripts, functions, and keep it in check. I don't think that it's... I do big and small things with AI. I don't think it's about only to have AI write things you can validate. Sorry. Let me backtrack for a second. I don't believe today for any serious work to be unsupervised AI. I don't believe we are there. Right? You can have it unsupervised. So the other day I created some silly application for my daughter. I just went to auto mode and kind of do it.
Right.
Brilliant. Real work cannot be unsupervised today. Right? And real work can be anything. Can be big or small. The question is not how big it is. The question is, can you organize it in a way that it's relatively small? And in most cases you can. And I feel that that's the thing that is not even directly related with AI. I think we should be doing it before AI like that as well. Kind of, how can I break this feature, this project, whatever it is, into manageable chunks so that I can finish something in a reasonable amount of time?
Yeah.
Hi, Victor Scott. The context length of LLMs is fixed. Correct. Except I think that GPT-5.1 something now provides unlimited context because it is constantly compacting context. Some insanity is going on there, but I haven't tried it. Anyways, how do you persist the context of problem you're solving? Compaction feature in Cloud Code is just so lame. Any alternative you're using? Yes. You can use existing tools like, we mentioned Kiro. One of those two. Kiro.
Kiro. Yeah.
Yeah. There is Taskmaster, there are others. I personally don't use any of them. I just wrote a prompt for myself that basically, that I execute, when I'm finished with a task, I execute my own prompt that has instructions. Hey, the file that we are using to track progress, put kind of which tasks were done, put a short explanation, put relevant information, move on.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself. You can use existing tools. The point now, the key is that you need to keep track of all the tasks in a feature together. It's not kind of like I'm going to record the task that I finished, because you need to have a knowledge of all the previous tasks that are related to be able to continue.
Exactly. I actually built a similar prompt, and what I have it do is actually also add all of the line numbers and everything, actually like the whatever links to the lines that it changed, to basically the change set. And then what that allows is that if a next step needs to understand what was changed by the previous one, it can always go to the change set. So I basically, what it does is it actually saves a change set to a file for each task, and then it references that file within the main checklist. So by referencing that change set, if it ever needs the LLM, it can always go out and read that change set and understand what the previous task changed, right? Which makes it easy.
Okay, from Da Pakazi. Also, what is your thoughts on using Gemini? It feels fast and good at planning recently, alternative to Cloud Opus for planning, and Sonnet does the work. I think that Gemini, in my experience, first of all, it's hard for me to judge a model because it's not model, but it's model and the agent you use.
Yes.
And I'm not going to enter into discussion now whether it's good option or not. I happen to use Cloud Code. I like terminal-based agents. I'm not saying that that's the way to go, just my choice. And every other terminal-based agent, except maybe open code up to a level, is far from Cloud Code. Yeah. So I'm not even sure when I say Gemini is not much better or better at all, or even worse than Sonnet. I don't know whether that's Gemini model with Gemini CLI. So Gemini with Gemini CLI is worse option than Cloud Code with Sonnet. My experience. Now, if you're using it in a more neutral agent like Cursor, that you might actually have a completely different opinion.
So I've used it in Cursor and all of that. I think that in the end, Cursor's, Gemini is great, but it is still not nearly as good at tool calling than the Anthropic models are. I like the UI elements that, like when I ask Gemini to create me like a UI something, I think that it does a better job than the Anthropic models. I don't like the AI bias of like horrifying weird colors and things that Anthropic do in their models. I do like the UI elements that Gemini do. Right? But Gemini is a old grumpy man, it seems, in how it responds to you. It's not like a happy, nice model.
Yeah, but Gemini's gaslight Gemini is so nicer that it will gaslight you and kind of like, oh yeah, you're right, it's working.
Well, all of them say you're right, but Gemini then doesn't, like, he says you're right up. And then doesn't follow up on that.
Yeah, because Anthropic is more like kind of, yeah, you're right, but.
Exactly.
But I feel that we are, at least where Gemini and Anthropic are concerned, I think that those are not major differences anymore. Kind of like, if you have a deal with Google for tokens or subscription, or you have a deal with Anthropic, both of them are fine. Kind of like, when Gemini 3 was released, they marketed kind of, this is generational leap, this huge leap. No, you're all very close. Very, very close. At least those two. But Opus, oh my God. BTV, the video size seems small, just resize around the center like a mobile view. Yeah, so this is a test here. YouTube allows you to create 2 separate streams, one for mobile, one for desktop. I don't know how that works. Please let me know in the comments. I don't know even how people choose or whether that's how, I don't know what's happening. I might not. Let me know in the comments whether we should continue doing this or just switch back to the desktop, and there you go. Jason Polly, again, Backstack is the new hotness, love to talk workshop in Atlanta. You have a groupie there. That's probably you, Scott.
That was, it was fun. Unfortunately, conference internet and stuff didn't allow us to go through all of it, but I'm glad that, you enjoyed it. And everyone can go to github.com/back-stack to the Backstack org, and there's the KubeCon NA workshop that runs in GitHub Copilot, GitHub Code Spaces. You can run it in the free tier there, and, there's the full tutorial. I recommend people, if they want to test out the Backstack and see what it can offer, Backstage, Argo, Crossplane, and Kyverno. And the reason it's the Backstack is because that sounds a lot better than Boofstack with Flux instead of Argo. So, it just had to be the Backstack. It was fun.
And it has to be Backstack because you cannot, if you change A to F, it cannot be pronounced.
Well, that's why I said Backstack sounds a lot better than Boofstack.
Exactly. What's a good balance if you want to leverage Dagger, DevOps, and Nushel to get a standardized workload from machine to machine in local CI/CD? I use DevOps and Nushel. I love it. I know that Scott is picking on me because there are probably 5 of us doing it. I'm still doing it because it's amazing. And so I would never recommend Nushel without DevBox because forcing people to install shell is just silly. But the kind of with DevBox, it makes it kind of DevBox shell, kind of like, and there is Nushel and other dependencies. I think it's awesome. I use it all the time. I don't use Dagger, to be honest, because Nushel gives me the means to create automation, and then I just plug that and execute, I don't know, new setup, right? Or new test. So I'm not sure that Nushel and Dagger, it feels that they are almost
they overlap
competing.
a bit.
Overlap, yeah.
What I would say is the whole thing with Nushel makes zero sense if you're outside of DevBox. And the reason for that is have you ever seen anyone that's written a fish script or a ZSH script? No. You use it as your terminal. Everyone writes bash scripts because bash is the common denominator that exists everywhere. You cannot release a new script unless everyone that is going to use it is using DevBox. And then it's fine. Okay, that's, up to you at that point. It's within a closed environment.
Exactly. Kind of. And that, by the way, I was very impressed with Fish many years ago and abandoned it almost immediately simply because I did not want to create muscle memory of doing things in a certain way that I cannot do everywhere, in a way.
If I remember, it's not even POSIX compliant, right?
No, it's not. It's not. That's the problem. ZSH is POSIX compliant, kind of hey, you prefer ZSH instead of Bash? Cool.
Right.
Your preference, but everything works, mostly.
Right.
Okay, what else? Jason, key projects need a crisis moment to get funding maintainers. That's not ideal. Yes, but that's how it works. They have a key project. No, there are some key projects that don't need a crisis moment, like Kubernetes. Kind of there is no crisis moment to get funding. It has
right. etcd had a crisis moment though to get maintainers, right? You remember etcd when it had 2 maintainers or 3 maintainers, and then there was that data inconsistency issue in Kubernetes, and then boom, all of a sudden, wow, now we remember that it exists.
Well, I would be happier if the crisis resulted in abandoning the project.
So do I, but in the end,
Yeah, but it would be better. Just like it would be better for cluster API if you have no drop-in replacement. Huh?
For Gateway API?
Oh, Gateway API. What am I talking about? Gateway API, not to have a drop-in replacement for Nginx. For Kubernetes would be better if etcd died.
Yes.
Okay. More from Jason. LB can only have 5 targets. That's why.
Yeah, the reason why there's different ALBs for each ingress. Yeah.
You can use MCP rack together, correct? The idea behind Cocker CI is that each step tracks artifacts, git binary, etc. And if it has changed, the step will perform operations with it in return as an artifact for another step. I haven't used it that much. I honestly don't know. So Concourse CI is example of another approach for CI workflows. That's not what I was thinking, to be honest. I was thinking kind of rethink, like Kubernetes or containers. They were truly different approach. They made us rethink how we do certain things, kind of like conceptually, right? This feels to me still conceptually the same with a nice additional feature, right?
Yeah. And it's also Scott not the only tool that does that.
Oh, definitely not. Scott, have you worked with much with built-in Hotel collector distros and even making your own components?
No, I have not, and I hate the fact that there are 25,000 distros of Hotel collectors when we should just be contributing back to the open source main Hotel collector and not having the Splunk Hotel collector and the new Relic Hotel collector and the Grafana Hotel collector and this Hotel collector. I hate the fact that we do that. Like, I understand that certain times people have to, push things and whatever, they need a feature that doesn't exist somewhere, but that should be a fork that they maintain, push it back upstream. When it gets back there, they kill the fork and they're back on the main line. I hate the fact that we are off of mainline in every single distro. Like it defeats the fact that we're doing OTO. We have OTO because we wanted a standard, not because we wanted 25,000 different collectors that implement different things differently. So no, I do not have experience with building collectors.
Okay, Jason, breaking down tasks is exactly what I'm trying to do with JP Spec Kit. I'm gonna write it down and try it out. Yeah. Hi. By the way, also another question: how would you make Talos and Cluster API work together if you want to be able to make a Kubernetes deployment, let's say Hetzner? This is your domain, Scott.
Okay, so regarding this, first of all, there is Cluster API in Hetzner, right? And there is a Hetzner provider. It's, if I remember correctly, it's not official. It's from some other company that built it, but it's like, it is a maintained provider as far as I remember. Now, regarding Talos and Cluster API, it's an interesting thing because it all comes down to basically ignition, right? So there is a Talos provider. It does exist. You can use Talos. The challenge with it is which actual providers support it. And it basically comes down to, do they support ignition and things of that sort. So again, it's kind of on a per, let's say, infra provider level if it works or not. I remember it does work on vSphere. That's where I've run it. I know that it works with some like the metal providers and Sidero and things like that. So it can work. I haven't tested it with Hetzner. It would come down to Hetzner and their support for ignition, things like that, because, I think it's ignition also in Talos that they're using, because they're not using cloud in it. I think they also use, if I'm not mistaken, they're also using, what's it called? Ignition as the mechanism for Bootstrap.
Okay, let's try to go fast through the rest because we are at it so quickly. What makes Subbound Crossplane 2.0 a native infrastructure? So this specifically for Upbound or even Crossplane. I think that Upbound marketing is going too soon. Upbound is yet to release things that will make it a native infrastructure. What I can say without revealing stuff in advance is that, and I do believe that independently of Crossplane, independently of Upbound, if you want to make AI do something good, you want it to use APIs, right? On a long run, I APIs are designed first and foremost for machine communication, right? Kind of whichever format of API. There are many different ways how you can do APIs, but APIs are the key. And cross-plane, not only cross-plane. Scott mentioned we talked about cluster API as well. Kind of like those are the directions I feel that we should be going. Simply AI talks API.
Yeah.
And crossplane is in a good place for that. Now more to come, so I cannot reveal things.
I was going to say what makes it AI native infrastructure today is the title on the docs.
Yeah, exactly. That's marketing being faster than it should. Hey guys, are there modern alternatives for self-hosted CI/CD platforms? We use Jenkins. Sorry for that, but feels like everyone is moving away from it. GitHub Actions is great, but I need it to be self-hosted. Tekton. That would be my choice.
Tekton or either Tekton or GitLab CI/CD if you're also want to self-host Git, so use GitLab CI/CD. If you're using GitHub as your actions, then just do self-hosted runners using the Arc runner and use GitHub Actions. If you can pay Enterprise, do GitHub Actions Enterprise, GitHub Enterprise, run it on-prem and do it that way. If you're in Kubernetes, Tekton.
Okay, have you used HashiCorp Nomad? If so, do you see any future use for it? Blah, blah, blah. I used it long time ago. It was cool. I liked it. I liked also Docker Swarm, just to be clear. Kubernetes at that time was horrible. But now it's not, we're talking 10 years later. HashiCorp Nomad is not dead. HashiCorp Nomad is like that person in a hospital on life support that is alive only as long as somebody comes to pay the bills. It will die eventually. Don't adopt, if you're using HashiCorp Nomad and it just sits there and does something cool, power to you, don't do anything with it. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. HashiCorp Nomad was a better thing than Kubernetes. And because it was part of a vendor and was not donated to the CNCF, it did not get people behind it. And today it does not have the ecosystem. The core engine, I think, is better than Kubernetes in many elements. But it's a failure because it didn't gain the traction. And therefore, the ecosystem of Kubernetes wins every time.
But that was a design choice. Like Swarm and Nomad were better for what they do than Kubernetes. Kubernetes focused on how can I make myself extensible so that others can churn in, right? And that's a winning combination along.
That's Kubernetes from 1.4, 1.5 when they introduced CRDs. But yeah, from the beginning, it was just a container orchestrator.
Yeah, but even back then, if you look at how code was organized, you could see kind of like, okay, every controller does a separate thing, while Docker Swarm, probably Nomad as well. This is the binary that does all the things.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, when does HPA stop making sense? If my act takes more than how many seconds to start? 30, 40. So, no, I think that the timing issue is relevant if you use some kind of serverless in terms that you scale to 0. And then the question is, how long does it take to scale to 1? I don't think when you have 5 replicas of application and you need 6th replica, of course, it's better that it scales to 6 faster than slower. But that's not that critical, right? Because you still have existing replicas to take to, because you don't scale when you reach 100%. You scale when you reach, I don't know, 80% of something, right?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's also it doesn't change the making sense of HPA. What it means is that if it comes up in 10 seconds, then you may be fine doing it at 90%. If it comes up in 50 seconds, maybe you want it to trigger at 80%. Meaning the percentage of usage at which you want it to trigger, you want it to be lower so that by the time it starts and you get to the 90%, you'll already have that new replica, right? Like, correct. That's the only difference. Not if you should use it, just what the values should be that you're scaling based off of.
Do you think that agentic AI will create real value revenue for cloud providers? 100%. System integrators, AI companies, 100%. Businesses in the 100%. Now, I'm not saying that they will all. I think it will be a battlefield and most of them will die, right? But those who survive will be the next AWSs of the world. Kind of GPT is almost guaranteed to be one of those. Google is going on a right track with AI. Anthropic is almost secured. I would actually even say that if you're not already one of those, don't even bother with starting business on models. Kind of like they're so far ahead with so much money. And they will generate value simply because everybody else will have to stop on that level. Now, there are other opportunities in AI, agents, inference, infrastructure, 100%.
And system integrators will, if they know how to adapt to the industry and know how to actually deal with these things correctly. Many, again, in the same thing with cloud providers and the same thing with AI companies and businesses. Anyone that tries to just think of AI as the next thing in the cycle and doesn't actually treat this as something really completely different that changes how we work and how we do things 180 degrees. Right? This is not moving from x86 to ARM-based instances in AWS. This is a major mindset, how we work, what we do, what areas matter, all of that completely changes. If we understand that as systems integrators, those systems integrators will work. Those that don't will fail. The same thing goes for cloud providers, AI companies, and for businesses that are trying to implement AI.
And just to be clear, because somebody is going to write kind of, but AI is not good at this. I'm probably Scott neither. We're not necessarily talking about the state it is right now.
Correct. And also, by the way, that is why 85% of the AI projects done in businesses today fail before they make it to production, because people are in the hype cycle of AI. AI has use cases in every single business, I believe. The thing is that most people are trying to use it in places that don't make sense, which is why systems integrators will have jobs, because they are the ones that, if they are the experts in this, who can say, no, that use case bad for AI. But, that use case that I heard them talking about over there, that's where it'll actually help you. You need those consultants that will come and tell you where it will work, where it won't work, and AI will not replace everything.
Also, with one note, I feel that this is similar situation like back in the day when people were moving their WebSphere servers to Kubernetes. Kind of the fact that AI can help with something does not mean that can happen while you maintain everything else as is. Like your processes, right? You need to change how you work.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're gonna, what they call it, AI slop, kind of like, cool. I was creating 2 useless presentations a week. Now I can create 50, kind of like, look at me, AI is helping me. I know.
Yeah.
DevOps is
this next one. I love this.
Is a storage pit. I start believing the conspiracy that Western Digital is behind it. Yes. Small note, not DevOps Nix. DevOps is just a wrapper around Nix. Nix is a storage pit, and I hate it. And whenever I see that I don't have enough space on my disk, first thing is that I need to clean that Nix, execute Nix GC. It's just horrible. I agree. I still love Nix through DevBox, but that part is horrible. The last one, how has AI influenced DevOps cloud jobs and the workflow in the jobs? I don't know. I'm not in a job market. I don't know if Scott knows.
I don't think this says in the job market. It's saying how has AI influenced DevOps and cloud jobs and the workflow in those jobs. And the answer is in every single way possible. For good and for very bad as well. It's made a lot of really bad pipelines. It's made a lot of really bad Helm charts and Kubernetes manifests that are unfortunately out there. It's created a bunch of horrifyingly terrible blog posts out there that people land on now for how to do something with completely horrifying, terrible instructions, because it's not an expert writing it anymore. It's AI regurgitating horrifying things that it saw on the internet. However, it also has made DevOps and cloud engineers and platform engineers and all that way more efficient in their jobs. Again, AI is a tool that when put in the hands of a senior makes that senior 10 times more productive, and when put in the hands of a junior is very risky.
Yes. And one rule I have is that before you think about AI, think about whether we're talking about the unknown or known. Kind of don't try to put AI into known things. That's automation, that's scripting. Kind of, there is no need for AI to run your tests in your pipelines. Please don't do that.
Right.
To analyze when it fails, that's an unknown.
Yes.
Okay, staying on the HPA topic, what if my app takes 3 minutes or more to start? Believe or not, it exists. Try MuleSoft, yes. When does it become overkill and maybe just better off with our provisioning?
That app shouldn't be in Kubernetes, so it shouldn't be with HPA. Is my general approach on that.
But even there, kind of like, so let's play this along, right? It takes hell of a time. Let's go crazy and say 30 minutes instead of 3. It's still better in my head, it still makes more sense to say, okay, I'm going to actually scale it up from 1 to 2 replicas when it reaches, from 2 to 3. From 2 to 3. When it reaches
50%.
50%, exactly. It's still better than to run always 3.
Correct.
I mean, cheaper. It's not better.
Right.
So, let me actually rephrase. The best thing you can do for your application is to always run the maximum number of replicas. That's the best thing you can do for your application.
Yes. Your CFO will fire you the next day, but exactly.
Yeah, kind of like, maybe you're rich, maybe you like burning money, kind of, I don't know. But yeah. Now,
Exactly.
if you don't have infinite amount of money, scale it on 50%. I don't know, 40, whatever makes sense.
Right. The only case where this isn't the case is use cases where, like, for example, your jump from 50% to 100% is spikes that happen unpredictably, but when they happen in such a quick burst that you won't be able to. Yes, you may need to over provision, but even then, you over provision at the beginning and just scale up more when you need to, right? So you still always have the HPA in case you need it. You just set the minimum replicas to be supporting the 75% workload that you need, right? Like, so.
No, there is a potential problem with that scaling down, actually. You can have a situation where you don't send the right signals to containers. It tries to scale down. There are no right signals. Something needs to run for 2 hours to complete, and it will be shut down. Bad design, but it exists.
And those apps should not be in Kubernetes.
Yes. Don't.
Okay,
the last one. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. This was brilliant. So many questions. See you all next week.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers.